Hello and welcome to the Chronicles with me, Andy.
And me, Producer Joe.
Yeah, he's stepping in for Nick this week. We are the Red Devil Chronicle, and tonight we're going to discuss the transfer talk. Not really much more to kick off with, to be honest with you, but some very, very interesting stories developing. Higuain, Schneiderlin, you heard it here first. They might be coming. What a way to kick off the first of our summer shows, though. Mark from the United Stand is back. We're going to have a chat through his season review. Of course, everyone's heard what we've had to say, and we're probably slightly more miserable for it. Mark, good evening.
Good evening, lads. Thanks for having me on again. Hope you're all well.
Yeah, all good, all good. You well?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Lovely weather today.
Yeah, it's been a nice day for it, hasn't it? Yeah, just a shame we've not had much news to brighten up that a little bit further, eh?
Yeah, definitely. It is a bit slower than I thought it was going to be, but hopefully there's still some wheels left in this
I
season.
think there's time to get them turning, certainly, but we are well known for doing last-minute deals.
Save it all for deadline day.
Yeah, I really hope not. Mark, let's kick off, though, first of all. As I said, everyone's heard our end-of-season review last week. Give us your view on how you've seen the season.
It's been a struggle, definitely. I think I've been looking back, as you do, at this time of the year, and there's definitely been... All I will always say is that I'm really pleased that we've got fourth place. I think that's all that mattered, and I kept saying it to myself throughout the season. If someone offers me fourth now, I'll end the season. But, you know, we've got that now. We are Manchester United. We should look at better. And it's interesting, you link into transfers and people like Pogba being linked with Chelsea and Isco to Man City. They're going to strengthen it, and we need to strengthen not just on the pitch but also in our play as well. And whether new players can come in and do that, I'm not so sure. I think that lies with the manager, who I think has had a massive learning curve, but we would be way too stubborn and arrogant to accept that.
Now, Mark, you've just mentioned fourth, so it links nicely with my next question to you. So, coming fourth, that we have to play a qualifying round. So, which of the teams would you least like to face, and why?
I think you've got to look at the teams that are going to be a bit partisan. Lazio, obviously, Fenerbahce. I wouldn't fancy Moscow for the travelling, and also, again, the fans, and maybe Sporting Lisbon and Panathinaikos as well. They're the 4 or 5 teams I would prefer to avoid. Monaco's a team I actually wouldn't mind facing.
So you say Monaco would be the team you would least like to face?
I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. I'd prefer to play them over some of the others, just because I don't really rate them that much. They've not really got much of a ground, and I think over 2 legs we should be beating them.
So, are they the team out of the 10 that you would go for?
No, I mean you've got to look at Sparta Prague, Young Boys, and probably Vienna. I don't know much about Club Brugge, to be honest, but probably one of those 4 ahead of Monaco. But I just think at that time of the season we could struggle going away against somebody who's, like I say, got a bit of a partisan, rowdy crowd. We want to go. We want it as easy as possible, but we want a bit of a test, really. It's about United need to next season. I think, going back to your first question, we need to hit the ground running and show what we are next season. I don't think Louis van Gaal will get a season like he's just had again.
Yeah, we need to hit early, definitely, and what better way than doing it in Europe? To make a statement early doors in Europe would be fantastic. I mean, just to clarify for those of you who don't know, Mark's covered pretty much all of the 10 teams very well, but I'll just run you through them quickly. As we mentioned, Monaco, Lazio, Sporting, CSK, Club Brugge, Young Boys, Sparta Prague, Fenerbahce, Rapid Vienna and Panathinaikos.
Which team would you,
out
of them, least likely to would you not want to face?
Mark mentioned it for a couple of reasons. I'm going to add a third one in here, CSKA Moscow. Not only for the travel and the fans, as Mark mentioned there, but also the pitch.
Well, yeah, I suppose.
It's terrible.
You forget about it, don't you?
Yeah, it's one of the artificial ones. I know they've worked on it recently, but from what I gathered last time City went there, it was sand painted green.
It's good. Good game.
Yeah, very. Yeah, it was entertaining, wasn't it? So that'd be something I'd throw in there as well. Plus, let's not forget they're a talented outfit. I mean, Dumbier, he's an incredible talent up front. Really underrated in my opinion, but yeah, that'd be who I'd least like to face. I think I actually agree with Mark. I'm going to agree with you on this one. Monaco, although I think I know you've gone, Mark, and said 4 of the others are probably a bit easier, but I would really like to face Monaco.
I think it'd be more of a challenge, which is what Mark's saying would be a good thing. I think some of the players at Monaco, well, there's only 2 teams in France, really, isn't there? So
Yeah. Well,
I mean, out of the 2 teams, they've got the second best players.
There's not only that, but I think, and I don't know if you agree with us on this, Mark, but I think we've struggled greatly against teams who are happy to sit in and camp in against us. I don't think you're going to get that from Monaco.
No, and one of the things that you might be able to ask, because I certainly can't answer it, is what are any of those teams actually going to be sort of halfway through their season? Because you want to avoid them as well. And I've got a feeling Moscow might be. I'm sure in the past, I remember in the second phase of the Champions League, they're in the off-season, so there might be one or two of them who are actually in their season, which again probably wouldn't be. You probably want to avoid those, but I don't know who is.
That's another point for CSKA for not facing them. You're dead right. Yeah, I mean they would be. I think during their season, if I recall correctly, I'm pretty sure you're right with that one.
I guess it all depends on the squad we have to go into it as well.
I mean, you'd expect us to be ready. I know, obviously, as Mark pointed out there, we've been slower than we anticipated to start. We got Depay in really early and we thought we were going to smash this summer. It's all going to be quiet, but I think moving forward, I think we'll have them in by the time that comes around. You certainly hope so. And like I said at the start of this, when we were talking about Europe, what better way to make a statement to how your season's going to go?
Well, is there anyone, Mark, to you, is there anyone in that squad you see is building the squad round for to get ready for Europe?
I think the one that stands out at the moment is probably Depay, like you say. I've got to stand by it because I've said it a few times now. I just feel that we've got a big signing coming this summer. I don't know who. I know who I'd like it to be. I'd like it to be Ronaldo. That's just sentiment, really. But
any chance?
No.
I think there is, but you know why? Because I think I'll be gutted and I'll happily come back on in a few weeks if Robin van Persie's allowed to go, and I will have a rant about that because I think it'd be a disgrace. But I just think the sound that's coming from Robin van Persie, it looks like he's going to go. We've lost Falcao. You can't risk it on a Lacazette or even a Benzema. You've got to have a good plan in place if you know that's going to happen. And I just think, well, who's better than Ronaldo? I know it's a bit left field, but I'll be surprised, but I'd be absolutely ecstatic if that happened. And I just think we've got a big signing to come in this summer.
Are you backtracking on Benzema being a big signing, Mark?
He's not a Ronaldo, is he? I mean, he's in Ronaldo's shadow at Real Madrid. That's his problem. He probably wouldn't have come here if Ronaldo did.
You look at like my question. They've built a squad around Ronaldo, so would he be as effective if he wasn't had a whole squad built around someone?
Yeah. What would Ronaldo be effective if he wasn't?
I know he would be effective in any role, but is he more effective at Real Madrid because he's got a squad built around him?
He probably is, but I mean, Ronaldo's my favourite player in the world. I think I'd have Ronaldo over Messi, and I know that's probably not the popular choice, but I just think he's the complete player, and he's played in England, which Di Maria for United's shown how difficult that is. I think a lot of people can go to Spain and score 30, 40 goals a season. I mean, he got 8 hat-tricks last year, which is ridiculous.
It's quite impressive, yeah.
Well, you wouldn't get a forward in England getting 3 or 4 hat-tricks.
Nowhere near.
Which just shows you it's a hard league, and I think Ronaldo would score goals in any side. But I think we could build a team around him if he came to United. I'd love it to happen. And
how much do you think we could pick him up for?
Well, the problem is PSG. I think they want to pay 100 million, don't they? I don't think we would want to play anywhere near that. I think 60 million would be fair.
That's why I was just raising it. Yeah, with the PSG bid rumoured. I mean, we can't. I mean, I know when you talk to fans, they go, "What do you care? It's not your money. Just spend whatever. Just get the player." You've got to think a bit deeper than that. At the end of the day, we have a budget, and if you're asking for 3, 4, 5 players, but you're also asking for 100 million to be dropped on one player, where's the money coming from for the rest?
But would you be content with just having Ronaldo?
No,
you wouldn't.
No, not at all. Would you, Mark?
Not at the moment, because we need at least. Well, I think we need 2 midfielders. We definitely need a centre back. We need a right back. So no, you're right. I mean, I am one of them fans who say it's not our money, and the Glazers have had enough of our money. But I'm sure there is a budget for the summer, and if it's 200 million and you spend half of it on Ronaldo,
that's simply the point I'm making. Yeah, I mean, I understand what fans are saying when they get that point out there and they say, look, why do you care what they're spending? I care because I've got in my head a plan of 3, 4, maybe even 5 players that I want in. And if you're spending that on one player, we're not buying the others. That's where the concern sort of lies with me.
Yeah,
I mean, just a question on, obviously we've discussed Europe, discussed players coming in. Do you see United balancing it well, being as we're due a good cup run, please God, not won the FA Cup for 11 years. Being as there's that pressure FA Cup, we need to be challenging for the title again. We're back in Europe. Whether we win the qualifier or not, we're still going to be in Europa League. So there's still going to be extra games. I know it might not matter as much, but we're still going to have those games. With the squad we've got, I mean, how do you see us sort of playing out in all those tournaments? How do you see us balancing it?
It's a really good question. It's a difficult one to answer because I think when you look at the season we've just gone, I think you're almost putting it in the bin and starting again. I'm hoping that's what's going to happen. There's going to be new players come in. He's going to get the balance he wants, and we'll hit the season better than last season. People have said to me that this is Louis van Gaal. This is the way he plays. You don't get many chances for your strikers. We didn't score in 18 of our 38 games, which shocked me. We created the least chances in the Premier League. It could go one of two ways. I think. You've got to be realistic. It's going to take a big effort to be able to fight on three levels. We didn't manage it this season when realistically all we had was the league and the FA Cup. But like I say, right this season off, United will be a better side in Europe than they are in the Premier League because that's Louis van Gaal's bread and butter. It's a slower tempo and that will suit us a lot better. If somebody said to me Champions League semi-final and third, I wouldn't be too disappointed with that. But I think I'd love to go for the title next year. I really would do, but I still think there's a lot of work to do at United, and it might be Van Gaal's third year where we get some proper results.
Completely agree. Yeah.
Well, it was a 3-month plan turned into a 3-year plan.
Yeah,
as we said last week.
Yeah, absolutely. And great points there, Mark. It is going to be difficult, though. I mean, what you just said there, when you said that a semi-final in the Champions League and third would be okay, I think that's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, definitely.
Without a doubt.
You say quarter-final and third? Is that acceptable?
I think quarter-final and third. I can't see us getting beyond the last 8, unless we get a really good draw, as we were saying last week.
You never know what happens in the group stage if we make it through. We might have a horrible group to look at yet.
I don't know. With our coefficient, we should still be okay, I think.
I think a lot of it comes down to, with United fans, they won't be mugged off next year by the performances that have happened this season. There's a lot of United fans who are wise to the fact that it wasn't good enough. If, however, we play next season and we play like we did against Liverpool away, and it's exciting and it's high pressing and it's good football, and we finish fourth and we go out in the semi-finals of the Cup, then I think people will be more happy with that than a Cup final and third playing how we did this year. I think United fans, one thing we are is we are connoisseurs of football, and I think that's the thing we want to see more than. A lot of people will say fourth place will take it for this season. It's transition, but it's about the football, and Van Gaal, he does need to figure that one out quicker because we won't stand for it for much longer.
Would you take fourth next year, Mark?
Not playing like this, no. And I think, to be honest, if we are fourth next year, it will be playing like this because the league's not that good. If United play like they did against Liverpool away and Spurs and City at home, then we should be finishing second next year. So if we're fourth next year, I'm not going to take that because I just can't see that we will have played very well again. Yeah,
we'd have had to play poorly really to finish fourth. I mean, you look at how far we end up behind Chelsea and how good really Chelsea actually are.
Yeah.
Not brilliant. I mean, if you look at how teams in England have fared in Europe, we always bang on about how the Premier League's the best in the world, but it certainly didn't represent it that way this year, at least. Mark, just to finish on Twitter this week, we had a bit of a poll going. I'll explain why we did this poll later on in the show. But we asked our followers for 3 players maximum that they would add to the Depay signing that we've already confirmed. Can you give to us the 3 signings you'd add to help complement the existing squad?
I'm glad you said that. I was going to say, are these just like Ronaldo, Messi, and Bale, or are we actually looking at the squad?
Yeah, I'm glad I added complement the existing squad now.
Okay, with 3 players, I think you've got to. I'd probably sacrifice the right back because we do need a right back, but I'd sacrifice the right back. I'd go centre back, midfield, and a forward attacking player. So I'd go Otamendi. I didn't know a lot about him, but I have researched a lot of him, and I think he's the closest thing to Vidic out there at the moment. He's a leader, not necessarily a great footballer, but he's a leader who put his head in there, and I think we definitely need that. Midfielder, I would go Schweinsteiger still. I bore Alex on the show every week with this, but I don't care about his age. I just think he comes in, adds that world-class talent. And then, probably, again, might shock a few people who watch the United stand, but I'd go for Muller. Because I think you could drop him in the Fellaini role, and he's a leader, he's a winner, and he'll score goals no matter. He scores goals in every tournament he ever plays in. So they're the three I'd go for. Like I said, love Ronaldo, but I think when you're looking at the team and wanting to go on to that next level, and we need leaders, I think those three would come in and give us a real strong spine.
So, Mark, you're going for Otamendi over, say, someone like Hummels?
Yes, I'm not a fan of Hummels, never have been. Don't think he'd adapt to the Premier League at all, and I don't think he's got the pace for it mainly, but having watched a lot of him, I'm not convinced he could do it, especially not for 30 million.
Otamendi was arguably the best centre-back in the Spanish league this season.
I'm not arguing with it.
And the thing is, a lot of people say about the Spanish league in terms of criticism that a lot of the players that come over here, Di Maria being the prime example this season, don't have the physicality for the league. There is no doubt in my mind, Otamendi is built for the Premier League, without a doubt. I think that's a really good three, that, Mark. Very strong. And you can let Alex know that I'm slowly but surely being convinced on... I'm being sold on the idea of Muller. I wasn't totally sure on it initially, but I've heard him talking a lot about it on the show, and I must be honest, he's winning me round with it. So they're a really good three, and I think realistic as well. I think there's a chance we could get those.
I'd hope so, yeah, that'd be fantastic, they would. And you know, if it stopped there with those three in Depay, I think I would be happy.
Yeah, some summer. Mark, thanks ever so much for joining us again. Mark and the United Stand panellists will be with us over the summer, helping us discuss, hopefully, a lot more transfer news. Mark, just remind people where they can follow you.
Yeah, we're at Twitter, and it's at United Stand MUFC.
And on YouTube as well?
Yeah, just type the United Stand in, and you'll find us now.
Fantastic. And you're doing shows over the summer as well?
We are. We're still going to be live every Sunday at 9 o'clock, and then we'll be doing transfer reaction stuff as well. But if you want to find us, definitely, it's always Sunday, 9 o'clock.
Fantastic. And I believe me and Nick may be appearing on a show soon, but we'll leave that for you to reveal in due course.
Yep, hope so. Anyway, thanks very much for having me on. It's always a pleasure, and good luck with the rest of the show.
Thanks very much, Mark. Now, coming up on the show, still plenty to talk about. You're going to hear about mine and Joseph's 3 transfer signings later in the show. That was Mark from the United Stand. Do give them a follow, watch the show. And next, we're going to do the shootout. Now the shootout's over for the season, but we're going to keep it rolling through the summer with some of the big, hard-hitting questions regarding transfers and long-term future for United. Unfortunately, we've not been able to get Anna back on the show, but we're hoping she'll join us soon. We're doing a bit of a mixed effort because usually when Anna's not available, we throw it over to producer Joe. But of course, producer Joe is co-hosting.
Yeah, I'm sat right here, unfortunately.
You're sat right here.
Yeah, not my own little hole in the wall.
It means, though, on the plus side, that I've been able to help out counting the questions that we've got this week.
Well, that's always a plus, because I do struggle with that, as you know.
Now, first of all, how many have you got for me?
1, and then another 1, so 2.
2. Right, I've got 2 for you.
That makes 4.
That makes 4. And of course, it can't be a shootout without 5.
That's the one.
So we've not got anyone to ask it to. So we're going to throw it to you, the fans, and hopefully you'll get involved.
Well, you can tweet us at WeFollowUnited, which is the best way to get in touch.
You can. Good branding, Joe. It's a good job someone's getting involved and letting people know where they can find us. Joe, I believe you got the first question for me, so fire away when you're ready.
Yes, so the first question for you, Andy, is, with United after a new replacement for Carrick, what does this mean for Blind's future?
Well, I think it puts it in a lot of doubt, to be honest with you. I think Blind has plenty to offer, and I believe he'll come good as well if given the chance. I think the only way he gets a chance, though, is with the doubts over Shaw's injuries and fitness. He could certainly have a role to play at left-back, and he's certainly impressed for me. He's been excellent there where he's been needed. But if the likes of Schneiderlin was brought in, as we've been rumoured with, I think Blind will most likely end up as a utility player and a rich man's John O'Shea, which is sad, but that's the way it's going to go.
Ooh, tough one on Blind. Tough one.
It is, and we might be being harsh and premature.
Bit of a fan favourite there as well, you're insulting.
I really like Blind. I mean, don't get this mixed up. I'm just being straight with you. If we bring in... Why are we being linked with the likes of Schneiderlin, Schweinsteiger, Vidal? These are all defensive midfield players. These are all Carrick replacement players.
So are you compared to City, Chelsea, etc.? How far are we off from achieving squad depth?
Well, I think that's what Blind still has to offer as a utility player, and we're going to touch upon this a little bit later on in the show. I think United lack a great deal of depth, especially in midfield still.
So Blind could bring that.
Yeah, and that's why I'd certainly keep him. And maybe calling him a rich man's John O'Shea would seem harsh, but it's in the sense that he is going to be a utility player because he can play centre-back, left-back, defensive midfield. He is going to be used across the pitch, sort of in the way that Phil Jones is, but better than Phil Jones.
Well...
Yeah.
Okay. Well, moving swiftly on.
Yeah, moving on from Phil Jones. Yeah, we'll go with question 2, which is for you. I'm not used to asking the questions. It's going to be a weird one. Here we go.
How do you feel about
it? Not great. Not great, but we'll see how we get on. It's only a question. Right, so Joe, Angel Di Maria has said in reports this week that he wants to stay at United and prove himself. Do you see Di Maria turning into a success at Old Trafford?
Well... Fair enough to the lad. He wants to stay, he wants to prove himself. It's a big club, it's hard to do so. I think he can be a success. I mean, all you have to do is look back to Real Madrid. I do feel we're being a bit harsh on Di Maria. It's his first year in the Premier League. He's probably not used to the physicality of the league. It is a tough league to play in. I mean, you look at Eden Hazard, he didn't start as the big monster he is. He's slowly got into that big, strong player, and I think Di Maria can do that. And I think we're going to see a big, massive improvement from him next year, and I hope that he can play in the role we want him to.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we might be asking a little bit much of Di Maria early doors. And, as we sort of touched upon with Mark earlier, La Liga sort of style of play is different from the Premier League. The physicality of the Premier League has obviously been an issue. He's been constantly injured.
I mean, look at him. He's not built yet for the Premier League. He's just not that strong player. I mean, I know we've got smaller players who've made it in the past, but...
Yeah, like Ander Herrera, even though recently... Very small frame, but he's certainly proving that he's got in midfield.
But you look at Sanchez.
So why is it's not worked then? Just going back, because I'm just wanting to point on Herrera, because of course he came from La Liga as well. Now I know he plays in a different position, obviously centre of the park, but he's dealt with the physicality of the Premier League better than Di Maria. Do you think that's down just purely to Di Maria's confidence, or is it conditioning?
I mean, it's tough to say, isn't it? I mean, Herrera is a player who has a lot of desire for the game. He looks like he's up for it. When you see him come out on the pitch, he's passionate about the game. Di Maria, towards when he was starting to get bad reactions, he looked more and more fed up. He didn't look like he wanted to play on the pitch. It looked like every ball was just kind of, it didn't matter where it went. Whereas Herrera's always been there and he's always had the fan support. He was backed by the fans to get into the squad. So he's a player that's backed by the fans, which is a huge lift at Old Trafford.
You can't say Di Maria wasn't, wanted to... We loved Di Maria when he first arrived. The fans got right behind him. Yeah, why's that not worked out?
I mean, at first, it was magical. I mean, you looked at the reaction from Van Persie when he was playing the balls into the box and it was like creating chances here and there. But as soon as that started to drop, straight away the fans were on his back. So
do you think it's a mentality thing? Is it a confidence issue?
And you've got to say it's a mix between mentality and the way he's built. You've got to say that the way he is it needs to be worked on. It needs to change in that sense, and also he needs to have his head in the game. And it's the first time we've heard him speak out about his future at United.
Yeah, it was good to see those quotes.
When he had his house broken into, that was a big thing.
Obviously there's been a lot off the pitch, as you say. That I think you're right. I mean, we should give Di Maria a chance to prove himself second season. And it's great that he's come out with that, especially after Fellaini, of course, was misquoted in an interview recently, saying that Di Maria would make a great signing for PSG.
Well.
So
you never know with Fellaini, do you?
Well, I mean, thankfully he came out on Twitter and said I have been misquoted.
There you go.
Yeah, those quotes that came through from that were wrong from him. So Di Maria does want to stay and prove himself, which I think is great. So let's give him a chance. I don't think he's going to make it, but he's built well for Europe at least.
Well, might return a bit of money, even if we get 35 million back for him. At least we could spend it on another player.
Well, yeah. I mean, if we do have to sell, I suppose you're still going to get some resale.
I'm just hoping. I'm just praying to God that he turns out next year as the exciting player we thought he would be.
Okay, fair enough.
So
right.
I've got another question for you.
Yeah, let's go question 3.
So last week, I've mentioned it earlier on the show. You talk about Van Gaal's 3-month plan changing to a 3-year plan.
Yes.
We're now 1 year on through that.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think United will be 2 years from now?
I see United with a Premier League trophy. but not at the end of next season. So I think it'd be then at the end of the 3 years. I don't see us doing much more than a sort of, as I said last week, limp challenge for the title. I think the only realistic trophy that we'll be chasing next year, sadly, in some respects, is the FA Cup. I can't see us going beyond the quarter-finals of the Champions League this season, semi-finals the season after, and I don't think you'll see United in a final in Europe for a good few years. So that would be my thoughts.
Well, I mean,
I sort of ran out of time there.
just
I was just looking at this stopwatch and I thought there's another sentence or two I could add there, but
you've got to look at, you've got to be realistic. Like you said before, you can't go off in the clouds and say we're going to be winning the title, we're going to be competing for the Champions League. The FA Cup would be a good place to start.
As we mentioned, to Mark, 11 years without the FA Cup.
I mean, it'd be a great place to start.
Way too long.
To bring it back to Old Trafford and bring it back to the fans.
I mean the fans ask for silverware. I mean, it's all good playing the attractive style of football, but ultimately it's a results game. We want to see, when you go into Old Trafford, you want to see silverware sparkling.
Yeah, you do.
And we're not seeing that.
Exactly. It's important to bring a trophy next season.
I wouldn't
want to see the Capital One Cup next season. I mean, yes, it'd be nice to have a trophy. If we won nothing else and we got the Capital One Cup, fair play. But
it's better than nothing.
FA Cup would be a
carries
good start.
more meaning, I think, to it.
Exactly, and to go back level with Arsenal.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, have done the dozen now, so that's been something that obviously they've been getting hyped up about. So
I'm afraid the 12 times song is going to be started by Arsenal.
Yeah, let's hope not. It doesn't quite have the same ring as 20 times, does it? I'll go to the final question of the segment for you, Joe. Question 4. Van Gaal only seems to be a short-term option at United. Do you see Ryan Giggs as United's next manager?
So, you've mentioned Ryan Giggs there, which is a big question if he can take on the role of United manager. I don't think so. I think that, yes, he could, for all meaning, and do you give someone a manager's role because of what they mean to the club, or do you give it them because they are a good manager? And you can't go handing out a manager's role to Ryan Giggs. You've got to look at the other talents out there. You've got to look at what else is on offer. And I'm hoping that maybe Ryan Giggs can sit in the assistant chair for a bit longer. I've gone over a bit there.
Yeah, we didn't do too well towards the end of that one, did we?
I mean, I'm going to have to carry on.
Go on, keep going.
Because I think Ryan Giggs is a great person to have in your staff. He's a great
Should he not be on the coaching staff?
I don't know. It's arguably the correct place, but if he wants to be a manager, then yes, it might be a good start to be under Louis van Gaal. You look at Jose Mourinho. Look at him now.
Yeah, so, I don't know. I just see with Ryan Giggs, that sort of inspiration of walking into, sort of Carrington, into training, young player coming through, and you see Ryan Giggs there, inspiration to all sort of youngsters and United fans, and a great player. Surely he should be transferring that sort of talent, to our, players coming through.
Could he not offer that from being the assistant manager?
I don't know. I mean, do you see Ryan Giggs as a manager?
He's always on the touchline. That's the thing I wanted to mention, that you look at the touchline, Van Gaal sat there with his piece of paper, and who's on the touchline arguing? It's always Ryan Giggs. And who's at the end of the game going up to the referee? It's Ryan Giggs. So in that sense, yes, he's got the passion for the club. Yes, he's going to fight for the decisions. Is that making a difference? I don't know. Is it going to help in the dressing room? I don't know. But you can't tell without seeing it.
Okay. Well, we're going to fire on to question 5 to complete the shootout. And this one's for you, our fans and followers on Twitter. So if you go to @WeFollowUnited, as Joe said, you can find us there, get involved in this one. We'll give you more than 30 seconds to type this one out. Type it at your own leisure. Take your time.
Give some thought to it.
Yeah, give some thought. Yeah, get a nice answer sent in to us, and we'll retweet our favourites. Question 5 for you, the fans, is, following on from what we've just asked Joe there about Ryan Giggs being potentially, the new manager in years to come when Van Gaal does go, who would you want to see as the next United manager? Louis van Gaal is only going to be there short term, obviously on a 3-year contract, potential extension for another couple of years, but he's not long term. So who would you want to see in charge at United in future? That's the shootout complete. More of that to come next week. Next, it's time for you, the fans, to take over. On Twitter this week, we asked our followers some of the topics for discussion on this week's show, and we're focusing on some of the brilliant debates we've had at We Follow United on Twitter as well. Now, as you'd probably expect, some of this section that we're going to start with is around transfers, and we're going to kick off with James Milner. Now, the reason I'm going to bring him up, we're recording this on Thursday night, just for those who don't know. James Milner has agreed today to sign for Liverpool, free contract 1st of July. Now, earlier this week, reports had gathered that Ed Woodward had put United's name in the hat for Milner. And to me, it looks like we've missed out on a free signing. Good English player, adds depth. I can already see Joe's face. Adds depth to to a lacking midfield. Good work rate. You know exactly what you're getting with him. I mean, it's fair to say, Joe, on Twitter, the mention of Milner divided opinion this week. What did the fans and followers have to say regarding this?
So APCMTB, what an interesting Twitter handle that is, says no thanks. Bang average, ex-City and Leeds supporting. Keep well away. I wouldn't take him because of his history. But on the other hand, we have Diamundi, I believe.
I think that's pronounced Diarmid. It's an Irish name.
All right, Diarmid.
He's part of the United stand.
Oh, is he?
He is.
Oh, well, he's always welcome.
Absolutely. We'll get
there
him
you
on.
Go. At Diarmid_MUFC. I'd have him all day long. I'll take any City player that's good enough. Milner, welcome to United.
Now, Joe, I don't need to ask you any more, really. Your thoughts. I know we've missed out on him now, but I just want to give it a mention because this really got people talking. Where do you lie on us missing out on Milner?
So I think you know my opinion on this one already. So I'd go with our very creative at APCMTB, and I'd say keep away Milner. He's not a good player. How can you say that getting another player? Yes, he's English. Yes, he's powerful. Yes, he's strong. But is he a good player? City are having a revamp, and there's a reason Milner's not being signed. There's a reason that he's not at that club, and there's something not right there. So why sign a player who a club who are also competing as much as we are don't want?
At the end of the day, he was free. We lack so much depth in midfield. If you look at our current squad, we've got Carrick, who's injury prone and getting on a bit, but obviously very important still, don't get me wrong. Blind, Herrera, Fellaini.
Yeah, so you're already saying if we sign, another one or two midfielders, you've got Fellaini, Blind and Carrick sat there with what role?
You've got to fill a central midfield 3 here in Van Gaal's 4-3-3. What's wrong with having a free signing? Bear in mind the new FA proposals potentially coming in over the English players in a squad. Why wouldn't you, when he's available free of charge, and he's more than just commitment and running, by the way, he has ability. He's been in 2 title-winning sides, played for England, represented his country. I think a lot of this comes down to where he played. I mean, if you look at some of the tweets on here, I know at C-Clay 1979 UTD said, there's no doubting his ability, but ex-Leeds and Man City, I can't see it. I just think I can't understand this argument over history of a player. I mentioned this on Twitter. Sir Matt Busby, ex-Liverpool, ex-Manchester City. Do I need to mention anyone else?
Yeah, but again, it's not. I don't even think it's because of where he's come from. I just don't think he's a good enough player. Why haven't City snapped him up if he's so good? If they're so worried about financial fair play, why isn't he at the club still?
Not the FFP side. I think more the FA with the English players in the squad. I personally think we've missed out on a great opportunity for a great squad player, because if you added then a really good talented midfielder, bought fair enough for your 25, 30 million, whatever, absolutely fine. What's wrong with picking up a player like that?
If you want him to play in the reserve squad, fair enough. If you want,
I think
another Anderson, then go ahead and sign him.
We both know that he's much better than our reserves. But anyway, that's what you had to think on Milner. We'll move on from him because obviously we've missed out on him anyway. He's gone to Liverpool, but
thank God.
I just think we've missed out on a squad player there. That's just me personally. I know Joe doesn't agree, but that was a great debate on Twitter, and thanks to all those that got involved. Now, within the fan takeover, we've been asking you all week for any topics that you wanted to see discussed on the show, and we got one mentioned by C. Clay, 1978 UTD, that I just mentioned, giving his opinion on Milner. He's also been on to us this week asking a question that he wants us to discuss, Joe.
Go on.
The question is, on the back of reading Dear Mid _MUFC article, do United have ability to sign world-class players? Now, he's asked specifically, as an example here, Verratti of PSG or Modric. Do you think United have the ability still to sign world-class players?
I mean, it's an interesting point, isn't it? Because, first of all, is Verratti a world-class player?
Not right now.
No. So
he's well on his way to.
I agree. Modric is a world class player. I mean, look at him for Real Madrid when he's well fit and he's playing well. It's magical to watch. But I mean, you pick them two players. No, we probably couldn't sign them to. Well, we could probably sign Varane.
And do you class Varane as world class?
Yeah, no. Again, no. It's
so,
one of them.
So this is what we're saying. From Chris's question there, he's asking, can we still get world-class players at United? Or are we being outfought by other clubs now?
I think there's a lot more competition out there. I think the Premier League's become a lot more competitive league. And you look at this year, it's not as good as quality football as it used to be, but there's more chance of anybody winning it. Next year somebody else might win. The year after, it's not consistent anymore. So with that lack of consistency, there's going to be more competition for good players so they can try and become a consistent team. So, I mean, you look at the world-class players who are out there at the moment. Yes, United are probably able to sign them. It's whether the club wants to pump the money into it.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned PSG. They want to throw money at someone like Ronaldo. We probably wouldn't. We probably couldn't afford to do that and sign other players. So, at this stage in Van Gaal's 3-year plan, which we've mentioned so much, I think... No, not this year. Not world class this year. More, I mean, top class players, not world class players, but that's a good start. And then next year, why not go for the big players?
Yeah, no, very, very good point. I think we have the ability to sign world class players still, Chris, in response to your question. But I agree with what Joe's saying. I think we'll go more top class to complement the squad. I don't think you'll necessarily see the marquee signings. I mean, we might be proved wrong. I mean, there's certainly plenty of names been batted around there that we'll discuss later that have been linked with us that are probably in the world-class bracket still. But I think the top-class players will be more where we're aiming for. I mean, if you look at the marquee signings we went for, the supposed world-class names, Radamel Falcao, Angel Di Maria, these were world-class players, and obviously they've been the biggest flop. So I think that's why potentially you might see us going elsewhere. Now, just moving on then to another question. It's been asked by at Matty_official. Just a quick question around our left-back position. This is an interesting angle, this, Joe. We've been talking about transfers a lot in other positions, but left-back's certainly not one we've mentioned. Now,
well, I mentioned it a couple of weeks back on my first shootout.
You did give a brief mention to it, to be fair, yeah. Matt Saunders, one of our followers on Twitter, has asked, do we need to sign a left-back in the summer due to Luke Shaw and Rojo both being injury-prone? Your thoughts?
I mean, I'm going to throw that to you first because I know your opinions on it, and I think that I agree more with yours. I have something to add to it, so I'll let you say your opinions on that one first.
Okay, all right, I'll kick off. So my opinion on that, Matt, I would say no, we don't need to sign a left-back. Don't be too concerned about where we've been at in terms of injuries. Van Gaal has come in with his new way of working, and it hasn't necessarily gone to plan in terms of training. As we well know, at the start of the season, there were injuries riddled throughout the squad. Now, there's been some interesting things said. I know Nigel Adkins on TalkSport was talking about Luke Shaw and potential sort of longer-term fitness issues, which is worrying. Roy Hodgson has said the same. But I think Luke Shaw will come good. I think he can fight those, and I think he's going to be our first-choice left-back. And I wouldn't be too concerned about that. I think he will get over those problems. He's still young. Rojo as a backup to that, perfectly capable player. Again, has been affected by injury, but bear in mind he came from a very long World Cup campaign as well last season. That could have impacted him for this season as well. We've seen it, before, so I think we should give him a chance as well. And as I mentioned in the shootout, Daley Blind, perfectly good left back for me. In fact, an excellent left back throughout the course of the season, better than he was in the sort of defensive midfield role. So I think we've still got plenty of depth there. Yeah, it could be something that you look at perhaps next season at the latter stages if Shaw, etc. has not worked out. But I think for now, perfectly happy with that. I mean, Joe, what do you want to sort of add to that?
I completely agree, and that's why I want you to answer it, because I feel it'd be unfair to take so much of that time to explain it. But no, I feel like we've got 3 options there already. And you're saying we've got a cheap a rich man's John O'Shea in Blind. So there's one option. You got Rojo there's another option. I quite like Rojo in left back. I don't see the issue. Yes, he made a few errors against City, and we forgive him for that.
and Leicester.
Well, yeah, and Leicester. But again, it was his first time in the role in a long time, and you got to look at his passion and power and pace and add that all together and think, well, what a strong left back we have in Rojo. And then you look at Shaw, I think a world class upcoming player. One of the best English left backs that we'll ever see. In our era, I think, I know that sounds odd to say, but
if you look at the benchmark, which would be Ashley Cole in our lifetime anyway, he has that potential.
Yeah,
without a doubt. We've seen.
I think he could smash that.
We've seen brief glimpses of it. I don't think we've seen enough to say that he would definitely be infinitely better than Ashley Cole.
I mean, but look at the training that he's been put through at the moment, the conditioning he's going through just to get this play. I think Van Gaal's treating him perfectly. I think it's a perfect way to train him and to be this next generation of English left back that we need. We've been missing it since Ashley Cole.
And he's got plenty of time to turn that round as well. He's still a kid, so let's give him a chance. I think we're perfectly fine in terms of left back for now. Now, moving on to the last section of the fan takeover. We mentioned this to Mark earlier. We asked him for 3 summer signings to add to Depay. Now, this all came out of the James Milner debate because United fans went mental on this debate, and then we started talking about, well, who would you sign instead? Who would you get into that midfield? Can you realistically get 2 big names in midfield? So we've asked the question on Twitter. 3 signings that you would add to complement the team. So we can't take too many that would destabilise it. So this was a difficult one. I know Dear Mid MUFC said that it was a very interesting challenge and that we'd need 6, but he would take Klein, Milner and Schweinsteiger. So he said Milner.
Joe, realistic options there. I mean, mine may be a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some more sort of fan reaction on this as well, Joe. I mean, if you're just looking at Twitter there, what else did the fans have to say in terms of their 3? Who would they go for?
Well, I think we've seen people like Coleman thrown in there. I've seen other players, of course.
Yeah, I mean the one that's Coleman, that was at Copious Opium. He's gone Otamendi, Coleman, as you say, and Schweinsteiger. He points out that defence is the main area of improvement, especially if David De Gea leaves. So that was Ryan's thoughts. Thanks very much for that, Ryan. We've got a couple of others in as well.
You've got Kofi Bismarck. I said 3-3-3.
Yeah, I think that's right.
We'll go with that. Kondogbia, Dani Alves, and Otamendi, sorry.
Okay.
And so, I mean, that again is not a bad 3 if we signed him, would it? I mean, Tim Jones has gone a bit ridiculous.
Tim Jones, we had to try this a couple of times with him.
You've gone Neymar, Messi, and Ronaldo. I mean, where would you put them all? That's the question.
Well, I said to him as well. Look, we're trying to complement the team, and we're not trying to take over Europe in one step, Tim. So maybe just rein it in a little bit. So he got back to us with these 3: Heskey, Bentner, and Akinfenwa. He went the other way.
Great players. Great talents.
We eventually got an answer out of Tim, and thanks for this, Tim. Schweinsteiger, Alves, and Otamendi. He said tough decisions, but I think it'd add much needed experience defensively.
I mean, fair enough. Thank you, Tim, for all your answers and your input.
Yeah, thanks to all of the fans that got involved in that part of the debate with your 3 players you'd sign. Now, I'm going to give my 3. We've mentioned a couple of them within that.
Yeah, exactly. Well.
Otamendi is number 1 for me. Schneiderlin is 2, and Lacazette is 3. Now, my reasoning for this is I think it's a good mixture of pace, power, strength, and control right through the spine of the team. And I think you've got proven Premier League talent in the heart of the midfield as well. I just think that adds great balance to the team. So they would be my 3. I've tried to mix it up and throw in an attacking player because something I've noticed there, Joe, looking at the tweets that have come in, a lot of them are defensive players. Now, who would be your 3?
So, I mean, I have made this clear throughout as much as I can in the time that you give me. Well, I give myself, really, but my number 1 is Hummels. I know you've questioned his physicality today, which is very upsetting. But
Mark's questioned the pace and whether he'd adapt to the game in the Premier League.
We mentioned last week, Mertesacker and Koscielny. I mean, they work well together. Why can't we have Smalling, who's got a tiny bit of pace?
He's got enough.
Yeah, not a tremendous amount, but it worked. And Hummels, I don't see a problem with that.
No, it's a good partnership. So that'd be number 1 for you, I take.
Yeah, number 2, which is a little unrealistic, it appears. We have been linked with him. We've been rejected, and it's Bale.
Okay.
And I think Bale would be a great player. I mean, we've got something on the left in Depay. Bale can fill in the role of the right, which is missing. So,
what does that mean for Mata and Di Maria?
You have to argue that they could. I mean, you have to argue that Di Maria could play in the middle, which he has done.
Okay.
I mean,
and Mata?
Squad player.
Heartless. Absolutely heartless. So he's 2. Who's 3?
Well, as you said, De Gea looks like he's on his way out. And it appears that an option that has arisen recently is Czech.
Okay.
And we've always been prone to signing an older keeper. And I don't see the issue with signing Czech. It could be a great signing. I mean, you look at him, he's still fit enough. Yes, he's had his issues in the past with injuries, but you can't argue the talent in Czech. He's a world-class keeper now.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I mean, I think he'd be a great addition to the squad. Whether Chelsea would sell or not, I don't know. But that's a good 3. I mean, something that seems to be, as I said, to me, a trend looking at a lot of the signings that United fans are after, and even ourselves to a degree, a lot of them seem to be lying around defensive issues.
I think that's where people feel we're missing, because I do think that Di Maria, Mata, Herrera are the players that can switch it on. And I think Di Maria is missing that. Herrera and Mata have shown a glimpse of that. I mean, Young's not going to play the way he has forever, is he? So
yeah,
you've got Depay now. So where we're missing, maybe we need a striker, but which looks more likely is defence is the issue.
Well, I mean, it does. I mean, I think perhaps the stats sometimes hide some of the problems there because, I mean, when you look at it, United conceded 37 in the league last season, and that was 4th best defence, I believe, in the league. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was 3rd or 4th.
You got Big Dave.
Yeah, but then exactly, De Gea's, stays within that. The 29 errors, only 3 going in, as we keep mentioning that stat. You can't rely on a goalkeeper to do that, I accept that. And whether De Gea does miraculously stay or whether he leaves and we get a good replacement, you cannot rely that heavily on a goalkeeper. So I do understand where fans are coming from. We do need Steele at the back.
I think it's a bit of a panic buy as well on everyone's behalf on Twitter. I think everyone's thinking, well, we're losing the best keeper that we've ever had, but nobody's replaced him. That's the issue I found, that nobody on Twitter has come out and said, well, if De Gea leaves, what have we got? Valdez? That's the only issue.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Yeah, I mean, we definitely need to strengthen there. Just something else before we move on from this feature. People were suggesting the lack of chances we created being an issue, and that's why a lot of people have gone defensive rather than attack-minded. Now, my issue with this, and the reason I've put Lacazette in as mine, as discussed last week as well, Rooney only got 12 goals, and that was our top goal scorer. Now, people are suggesting that it was down to lack of chances. Joe, I mean, where did we sort of slot in on that? I believe we were 6th highest in terms of number of chances.
So it's in line with the Premier League itself, how it finished. We are 6th. I know it's not 4th in chances, but we had 391, I believe. And that's according to Squawker stats.
Okay. And just something else that I know you brought up to us last week that you fired up on screen to us whilst we were having a chat. It was our lowest goal tally in 23 years.
I mean, you look at how we come 6th in the table, which is not a bad. It's pretty bad
for the chances created.
Yeah. It's not the best, but it's not dreadful. I mean, coming behind Liverpool is a bit of a shame. Chelsea, Arsenal, and City. I mean, City created the most. You think to yourself, well, 6th, we can build on that, but Spurs and Liverpool being ahead of us at the moment is not on.
Yeah.
Not right.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's quite as bad as people are making out. I mean, I think Falcao's lack of movement was a lot to do with his problems at the club and why he didn't score the goals. He was moving away from it more than he moved towards it. And 62 goals in the league, as we were saying there, lowest in 23 years. That, to me, spells out issues up front all day.
Yeah, I suppose that's where he's trying. But without Rooney, you were dropping him to midfield. So
right,
again,
so let's look at the other strikers then. Van Persie 10, Falcao 4,
right, but
Wilson 2.
All right, let's just imagine Rooney plays up front all next season.
Okay, you see him scoring 20,
and you put a nice midfield behind him and a defence that you can rely on.
And he's going to score 20, is he?
Get close to it, yes.
Do you think? I think we might be coming back to this recording. We'll see who's the mug at the end of next season.
I'll write it down
one.
for you.
Yeah, but a lot of people, as I say, seem to be going on the defensive side. I'd say I understand why, but I think if you're only going to get another 3, because you've got to be careful about, sort of disrupting the squad there. I think 3 through the spine for me is the way to go. Joe obviously has gone a little bit different, very defensive to start with, and then one super signing up on the wings there. Let us know what you think. Continue this on Twitter, please, at WeFollowUnited. The challenge, 3 players that you time to add to deploy. That's 3 players maximum. Try and be realistic. Hint, hint, Tim Jones. But thanks very much for all your feedback, for all the topics sent in by everyone that got involved. We'll look forward to more Fan Takeover next week. Next, it's time for You Know Who. It's Dodgy Dave. So, next up, here we go. It's Dodgy Dave time. He's with us all summer. We're not selling him yet, and he is one of our own. Not only one of our own, but he's also an award winner. Get this, we're introducing tonight Dodgy Dave, Burnage Metro FC 5th team, 2015 Player of the Year. What? Dave, congratulations.
Congratulations, Dave.
Thank you very much. I will be signing autographs at the end of the show in the gym for anyone who is interested.
It's just a shame that this will be broadcast on the Saturday, at which point you probably won't be in the gym.
Well, there's always hope.
A very good point.
He's got to train hard for next year. He's got 2 in a row.
Training, yeah.
Well, yeah, especially now you've moved on from 5th team. You're 3rd now, aren't you?
Well, they're pushing for 2nd and 1st, to be honest.
What did it feel like going back to the 5th, like getting that award as part of the 5th team? Did it feel like a drop down, or did it feel like sort of Jesus walking back in on the second coming?
Well, I've only been there for a year, but I've got to say I pretty much have turned the whole club round just in my own individual performances. So
he's modest.
I mean, what can I say? It was an honour to put the award. To by your peers, and obviously just shows I'm the best. So,
yeah. Well, congratulations,
we all knew it,
as we say.
So
yeah, well done.
I got the most modest player for you as well. So.
Now, Dave, on a similar sort of playing level to yourself, it's Champions League final this weekend.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not there. But...
Yeah, I know you picked up a bit of an injury towards the end of the season. Obviously, that's between Barcelona and Juventus. Just wanted to get your thoughts, because we know obviously you change your clubs as much as you change clothes. Well, we hope, but
probably change clubs more. But...
Well, yeah, probably. But of Barcelona and Juventus, who are you following in the Champions League final? Who's your support going for?
Well, you know me, always like the underdog. Being a lifelong Arsenal, Hull, Wigan, Blackburn, Stoke, Sunderland fan, so I'm going to have to go for Juventus in this one, I think.
Oh yeah. I thought you'd go for glory. I thought with Barcelona being such big favourites, I thought you'd jump right on the bandwagon.
No, because I knew exactly if I did that, you lot would all start slating me for it. So
we're going to slate you either way.
Yeah, true, yeah. But how good would it be just to see Juventus absolute boring stalemate for 120 minutes boring. And Juventus win it, Pirlo chipping a penalty down the middle like he did against England. It'd be brilliant.
As you do every week, are you going to go out and buy a shirt?
No, too expensive this week.
Too expensive. So, if you were going to buy a shirt, who would you have on the middle?
Who would I have on the back? It'd be Pirlo.
Just for the chip.
Pirlo or Vidal. Vidal, because I could then maybe strip the name off, but chuck him on my Arsenal shirt for next year, because he's obviously coming, isn't he? So.
Of course he is, absolutely. Now, on the subject of transfers, Dave, we put you a bit.
I'm quite good at linking this all together, aren't I?
Yeah, you're doing well. It's almost natural.
Apart from this show together for you.
Apart from when you then interrupt whilst I'm linking in, apart from that, you're getting pretty good.
I'm just getting a bit cocky now. So.
You are, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I can't blame you. You're fast becoming the secret star of the show in your own mind, at least. Yeah, absolutely. Now.
I'm fearing for my job as producer here.
I'm fearing for the show, to be honest with you. Now, looking forward, we gave you a bit of homework to do for this week, Dave, on the less glorious side of the transfer market. We've looked a little bit, we mentioned James Milner in particular earlier in the show as one of the free agents that were out and about. Obviously, he's been snapped up now. But we put it to you on a frugal note to have a look at some of the free agents, because there's some big names out there, and we asked you to put together your Freebie United 1 to 11. So, Dave, if you want to fire us through and have a chat and tell us, why you've gone for each player.
Yeah, well, formation first one, 4-3-3.
Oh, Louis van Gaal approach.
Well, yeah, it's all part of the philosophy, isn't it? It's a United team.
Absolutely.
So I've got to admit beforehand, I've not researched these players myself. I have been given them by an anonymous source, you. So
yeah, I did most of the homework for you, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not on my head. These are actually free transfers.
Well, yeah, we checked out, obviously, an article from mid-May, didn't we, when we were having a look at it. So we don't know if all of the players... I mean, I don't know your team yet, but we don't know if all of them have been, still free transfers or whether they've been snapped up.
We can only hope.
We can only hope. Let's see what you've gone for, Dave.
Right, well, first off, United obviously lacking a bit of experience at the back. So I've gone for Thomas Sorensen as the goalkeeper.
Okay.
Must be pushing about 60 now.
Yeah,
he's got all that experience, just what United need, because obviously you're going to lose the other Dodgy Dave.
United like an aging keeper. Dave.
So, yeah. Yeah, to be fair, when he got Van der Sar in, he was about 50, wasn't he? He stood around for about 10 years and did quite well.
Okay.
4 at the back. Got to start off with Wes Brown, haven't you, really? United legend. They absolutely love him at Old Trafford, I'm sure of it. Get him back.
Mm-hmm.
Next, probably centre-back partnership with him. I'd have Richard Dunn. He'd just be such an asset to have in training. Mentoring Johnny Evans, because basically the only thing Johnny Evans is lacking from his game at the minute, apart from being an atrocious defender, I don't think he scores enough own goals, and I think he could really learn that from Richard Dunn.
He probably could, sadly, yeah.
Yeah. I'd have, to be honest, I ain't really thought about this. You've got 2 left-backs, so I have to mix it up a little bit.
That doesn't surprise me at all with you, Dave.
Yeah, well, you've got loads of left-sided midfielders anyway, haven't you? So it just add more weight to that side anyway.
Go on.
Either way, Asu Acosta. Got to be Evans, the ultimate professional.
Ultimate professional, yeah.
He absolutely hates football, hates everything about it, but he'll be down there at training, once in a blue moon, and maybe turn up for a game as well. And finally, Maynard Figueroa.
Is that just for the goal?
Well, he scored a couple of goals, but at the same time, United, how shot shy are they? They just won't shoot. That guy gets the ball at his feet and he'll shoot from 90 yards if he has to. That's what United are lacking.
Good solid defence.
Yeah. Midfield, Johan Gorkov, first up, just because he was really good on FIFA a few years ago.
Just
so
good enough reason, yeah.
At least he's got to be in the mid-70s now, hasn't he? Still rating-wise.
He's only 29, you know.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about FIFA rating.
Oh, right.
I didn't
it's always a good
think he was like 70 years old, no.
Right, yeah, when you said about 70, I thought you're overdoing it a bit. He's only 29.
Oh, no, he's definitely younger than Thomas Sorensen, at least.
So he's holding the midfield, is he?
No, he's the creative. Well, I don't know, actually. Where does he play?
Oh, I don't know where. I was asking you where he plays in yours, because your team's often so backward in your thoughts.
Well, he probably plays in, I don't know, middle of the pitch. Why not?
Middle of the pitch.
That's fine.
All right, yeah. Go on. Who's your other two?
Bit Mike Bassett, this, isn't it, really?
It's very much so. I'm surprised you're not playing the Christmas tree.
Christmas pudding.
Yeah.
Who else? Alongside him, Joey Barton. Just purely because the guy is a complete muppet, and he's probably fitting quite well at United, just based on that fact.
Okay.
And then you got Peter Odemwingie, just purely because I've heard a few rumours flying around. He's been seen in the car park at Old Trafford pretty much since the last day of the season, waiting to get signed up. So brilliant. I think he's just wasting all his money on paying display tickets at the minute.
Okay.
So I've got to get him signed up. And then just the class front three, really. Dimitar Berbatov, Shola Amiobi, and Carlton Cole.
What a
just
three.
Really because I don't think there'll have been an older strike partnership in the Premiership.
Probably as old as the keeper, just put together.
Yeah, combined age of Thomas Sorensen, yeah.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Yeah.
And I'd just like to see a statistic at the end of the season saying the front three have only covered about 50 yards in total over the whole duration of the season. Definitely. I think they would all just be standing in the same spot, standing on each other's toes.
Well, yeah, I mean, you missed out some of perhaps the more obvious names, not surprisingly, Dave.
Well, obviously they're all coming to Arsenal, so I don't want to give you them, do I?
Well,
Sammy Khedira.
That's true. Yeah, Khedira's gone to Juve, I believe, but he was obviously a free agent this summer. Yeah. Danny Ings as well.
Danny Ings where's he gone? Juve?
Nowhere at the moment, no.
Oh, right.
No, he's not gone to Juve, no, he's not gone anywhere at the moment.
Can the guy spell Italy? Let's go. But yeah,
so yeah,
Danny Ings.
Missed out on a couple there. I mean, are there any of those free agents that you'd have at Arsenal?
Khedira?
You didn't include them in. You didn't include him in your team.
Yeah, don't want us to have them, though.
Yeah, I don't want you to have them. Why would I want United to have them?
So you put together a shed of an 11, basically.
Yeah, why not?
All right.
We don't want you getting Champions League football, do we? So.
That's true. Well, that's what Dodgy Dave has in terms of his excellent sports coverage. That's 11 free transfers that we should avoid, but he thinks we should sign.
I have to admit, I did put a good 6-minute thought into that, so...
That's a
good
good
amount of time.
Very good of you.
Yeah.
Dave, wrapping up in only the one way that we always wrap up, Dodgy Dave. I know it's been eventful, but let's hear your story of the week.
Story of the week. 2 stories, obviously winning the award. That was a bit of a highlight in my career, my footballing career. That was Saturday. Since then, I had a pretty traumatic Tuesday, to be honest. Got home from work to receive a speeding, a nip, I think it was called, from the Scottish police about speeding. And then, in the complete shock of that, I then threw my cat's litter tray all over the floor, burnt my toast, went next door to pick up a parcel, locked myself out the front door, had to climb over the back gate to get back into the house. And all that in about 30 hours and a half.
Cheers, Dave.
Time to end the show then with dedicated transfer talk. Of course, transfers have been on the mind of every feature we've discussed this evening, as you could only expect from the summer. But we're going to have a bit more of an in-depth look at a couple of big stories. Talking Real Madrid first, I know this has been something we've been discussing for a while now, but we're going to go a slightly different angle on Madrid. United have been linked with a huge transfer bid this week. Rumoured that we've gone for a double swoop of Bale and Varane at £110 million. That's been supposedly rejected. Joe, what do you think of the possibility of us getting either of those players?
I mean, Bale was in my top 3.
He was.
As we spoke about, which is, I mean, it's an unbelievable player. I mean, you have to argue, he's had a hard time in Spain, but when he was playing in the Premier League, he was a game changer. Many 3-2s, I remember.
Yeah.
That was many scorelines.
Yeah, there were indeed.
Yes, so Varane, not so much excited about. Yes, good player, top class player. Not to the same standard as Bale, but I do think 110 million, is it a bit pricey? That we end up paying about 80 million for Bale.
That's how I'm wondering how that breaks up, and obviously that's been rejected as well according to reports. So how much are we looking at spending on these two? It's a lot of money.
You have to look at the possibility of doing a swap with De Gea. I mean, is to include that in the deal and maybe drop it to 50 million?
Look, I think we've accepted, certainly on the Chronicles, that De Gea is on his way out, and we might as well try and use him as a bargaining chip to get something back for him now, rather than letting him go on a free next summer. So possibly that is an option to use De Gea to get one of their players.
Maybe that's why it's rejected. You never know if the reason is because we're just not playing ball with De Gea.
Possibly, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, worth a mention. Now, if we don't get Bale or Varane, I know we've been linked recently with another Real Madrid star player, mentioned earlier with Mark, Karim Benzema. He could be shown the door, as Rafa Benitez, of course, has come in for some reason, following Ancelotti's sacking. And Ronaldo or Bale, reportedly, is who he's going to be looking forward to as a centre-forward. Benzema's only got 15 league goals in La Liga this season. We've also been linked with another La Liga star in Carlos Bacca. He, of course, has got 20 La Liga goals this season. Joe, we've talked, obviously, Higuain and Lacazette last week in terms of targets. This week it's Benzema and Bacca. Would you go for any of those 4, or would you stick with what we've got?
So, I mean, if you look at this year's stats, you've got to say Lacazette takes it with 27 goals and also with 67% shot accuracy. But then you go over to Bacca and 20 goals, more games than Lacazette.
Yeah.
But the highest out of all them 4 players with 71% accuracy.
And how does that compare to what we've got at the moment in say, our top scorer, which of course was Wayne Rooney?
So if you look at 33 games, which is bang on what Lacazette did, 12 goals. See, and 51% accuracy. Not a great season, but we knew that, didn't we?
Yeah.
I mean, is it hard to compare this season to the last to all of the other players? I don't know. If you look back, 1-2 years, you get better stats from Rooney.
Well, yeah, absolutely you do. I mean, on the basis of how the season's gone and with those 4 that we've been linked to, would you pick one of those 4 to sign? Would you go with another player, or would you be happy without a striker altogether?
I mean, I wouldn't be happy without a striker. You've got to have something. I don't know if it's time to bring in a young player. I don't know if it's time to, like Rooney. I mean, why aren't we looking at young talents anymore? We seem to just be missing that and going for these top class players. We have a top class player, which is Rooney. We have two. With Van Persie and Rooney. These make great mentors for young players. Why not bring someone in who can do that for someone else?
So you mentioned young players. Are you talking Lacazette, my option, or are you looking internally? Are you talking James Wilson?
I think James Wilson is an option. I don't know if he's good enough. I think a few years out on loan wouldn't do him hard, but
I'm worried he has a level.
Out of all the four players, I choose Lacazette because of the age and because of the stat. You can't argue with 33 games, 27 goals and 67% accuracy. I mean, and he's the youngest out of them all. So why, again, underneath Rooney first option, Lacazette, you couldn't put him a second, could you, though?
It's a great prospect, to have a young player who has been firing in the last year or two. It's a great option to have. And if you do keep Rooney and Van Persie, and they can get firing as well, those two with the youngsters of Wilson, if we keep him, of course, and Lacazette, it's a good four to have, I think. So, I'd agree with that. I know Nick obviously would have his thoughts, but he's not here. One final thing I want to give a quick mention to that's been very quiet recently, our right-back position. Even Mark sort of skipped over it before when we were asking about it. He said we'd sacrifice it for this season if he was only looking at 3 to add. We've been linked with Klein, all gone quiet. Coleman in the past, all gone quiet. Now, there's been a couple more. There's been Darmian, of course, very good player. And also Dani Alves on a free.
I mean, Alves is a great option. You've got to argue that is the right option. But you've got two players there, two squad players, as we call it. We've mentioned many times. We've got Valencia and you've got Rafael. I know Rafael's not really made it in terms of his right back, but Valencia, you can't argue with the pace and the passion he's given to the squad. Yes, it's not been the best right back. It was a temporary fix that seems to have become a long-term fix. So
temporary fix, absolutely. Job done most of the season. Would you go Dani Alves?
Yeah, you'd have to give it to a player who's established in the role.
Okay.
Rather than has been made to to get used to that role.
Yeah.
I think it's an easy option if it's free. It's just Dani Alves all day long.
One quick line in the time we've got remaining. Morgan Schneiderlin, it's finally come true. We're rumoured to be in the front row for him now, in the driving seat, and 25 million bid. Would you need another midfielder in one line other than Schneiderlin?
No. I think we could work with the players we've got, and Schneiderlin's a great addition to the squad.
Okay. Possibly coming then. It's getting exciting. It's just warming up. Plenty more to come next week, including more transfer talk. Hopefully we'll have Mark back, Anna back. Dodgy Dave, of course, will be with us, and plenty more guests. We'll look forward to that. Please get involved in all the discussion on Twitter. Thanks ever so much for listening. Please follow us. We're at We Follow United, youtube.com/We Follow United. It's a Chronicles, episode 4. Take care.